Well, let's get into the latest news now with Mia Schlicht from the IPA. Mia, welcome. Confidential documents have revealed senior Victorian bureaucrats were panicking as far back as 2022 over Anthony Albanese's refusal to tip in an extra $9 billion for the Suburban Rail Loop. Infrastructure Australia has since blasted the project's business case, even warning benefits were overstated, while the Allen government insists it's vital for Melbourne's future. Mia, this project has been described as a financial gamble with taxpayers' money. Is this another case of Labor over-promising and under-delivering?
Yes, Caroline, I think it is. This project is shocking. It's a shocking project. I mean, it's unaffordable, it's unpopular, and at this time, it's just completely unnecessary as well. And the reality is the Victorian state is broke. There is no money. There is no way to finance this. And with the state government's history of how they've dealt with major infrastructure projects, there's no doubt there'll be further cost blowouts and timeline blowouts as well. So I think it's no surprise that the Prime Minister is putting up his hands and taking a step back saying, I don't want anything to do with this. But what I'm most worried about is that the Premier is just so dedicated with continuing forward with this project that she wants to just go ahead at all costs, even going as far as to effectively bring back the Belt and Road Initiative on a recent trip to China in order to finance this.
I want to bring in now Sky News contributor Jo Hildebrand. Jo, great to have you as well. Infrastructure Australia say these costs don't stack up. Do you think the Suburban Rail Loop is now shaping up to be the biggest white elephant in Australian politics?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I'm a huge fan of rail. I'm a massive train nerd. And I think, to be honest, it is something that has to happen. But the government clearly just hasn't made a financial case for it. I mean, firstly, they should have done an airport link first. Secondly, they've budgeted for a third to be funded by the state government, a third to be funded by the federal government, which isn't forthcoming yet, and a third to just sort of fall out of the sky from increased economic productivity whenever and if that happens. So it is a basket case. It's another example of the Victorian state government, which is run by the left of the Labor Party, basically just running on fumes instead of actual material economic gains.
Well, let's move on now, because it turns out that running a university pays a whole lot better than running the country. Who would have thought? A Senate inquiry has revealed 38 vice-chancellors are now taking home bigger salaries than the Prime Minister. Even Bill Shorten is getting $860,000 a year at Canberra Uni. But I got to say, at least he is willing to crack down on anti-Semitism on campus, as he revealed to me in an interview a short time ago. I was pretty impressed with that. But Jo, do you think these salaries are justifiable?
Yeah, I think as long as the VCs are doing a good job and actually upholding things like freedom of speech on campus and cracking down on some of the terrible anti-Semitism we've seen at some universities, I think Bill Shorten is actually going to be a really interesting Vice-Chancellor. I've had some private chats about what he plans to do with the University of Canberra, and it actually sounds really refreshing and really exciting. But I also worry about kind of constantly saying, I mean, these guys are paid not dissimilar to what a lot of top public service mandarins are, the Secretary of Treasury and PM&C and others. I think if you pay peanuts, you do get monkeys, and you do risk losing big brains to the private sector where you get vastly more remuneration. So I think we want to make sure that these people are held to account and that we're getting value for money, not necessarily just writing off a figure because it looks too high to schmucks like us.
Look, hey, we're no schmucks, Jo Hildebrand. But when you're getting millions of dollars in taxpayer funds, surely there has to be oversight and scrutiny. I'm sure we'd all agree. Let's go to the US now, where former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on charges of making false statements and obstruction. Prosecutors say he lied in congressional testimony back in 2020 about media leaks tied to the Clinton Foundation probe. Now, this all comes just days after Trump publicly demanded action. He ousted a US attorney who wouldn't bring the case and installed one of his own former lawyers to run the prosecution. Mia, Democrats are predictably crying foul about this. But what about Comey's actual testimony? If prosecutors believed he lied under oath, that should be taken seriously, surely, regardless of the politics.
Yeah, listen, I don't have a lot of sympathy for James Comey in this one. I mean, he certainly sought to give himself a very high profile whilst he was in the role, and he was constantly inserting himself into public debates. And I also don't have much to say on this claim with Democrats criticising Trump's use of the courts to highlight some of the corruption that is going on, when his so-called enemies certainly weren't afraid of using the courts against him when it suited them. But what I think is really important here, because this is an issue not just in the United States, but also in Australia, where we have this trend of bureaucrats who are supposed to be in these roles to serve the public good. However, they are frequently using their positions to serve their own political ideals and their own beliefs. So I think it's really important that we start shining the light on who it is who is pulling the levers of power.
Such a good point. And the system was weaponized against Trump for so long, so it's a bit rich for people to criticize him for fighting back. Now, Jimmy Kimmel is back, speaking of people who are back, and his comeback show has smashed records with more than 6 million viewers. But instead of having some humility, he went after Donald Trump, mocking his dismal approval ratings and calling out the former president's latest threat against the ABC.
This was his big closer. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. And he does know bad ratings. He has some of the worst ratings any president has ever had. So, on behalf of all of us, welcome to the crappy ratings club, Mr. President.
I mean, Joe, what can you say? I think this was some of the problem with making Jimmy Kimmel a martyr. People were going to always tune in to his big comeback, and now he's shown no humility. It's the second night he's back. Yeah. Just quickly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is just proof positive that cancel culture doesn't work. It's wrong when the left does it against the right. And it's wrong when the right does it against the left. The only beneficiary of this whole fiasco, it seems, has been Jimmy Kimmel, because he's got his job back and he's rated higher than the show has ever rated in history. And it's just like what the left did when they came after Dave Chappelle or Shane Gillies and got him booted off Saturday Night Live and tried to get Chappelle booted from Netflix. It just made them bigger and bigger stars. So I say, let's cancel culture.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll go back to his normal low ratings in next to no time, but otherwise I agree.